Welcome to the FINK It Isn't Until It Is podcast. I'm Finn.
I'm Tim.
I'm Guy.
Chapter 2 is entitled Just Write Another 10 of Those and We're Good. Covering winter 2004 to summer 2006, the hazy days in which we record Biscuits for Breakfast, play live for the first time, realise things are going quite well, release the album, do some tours and festivals, and win at tennis.
Aha. Yes.
Aha. So, at the end of the last podcast, we were grouping at Scream in Croydon in 2004 and feeling each other out, musically speaking.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
Well, there's something I want to know, which you touch upon in the book. During the early period, like us rehearsing at Scream and recording Pills in My Pocket and so on, to what extent were your lords and masters at Ninja Tune aware that this was all happening? Because you kind of allude to certain elements of kind of subterfuge, like you're not quite telling them that there's a band, and then there's also the bit that where you're not quite telling them that you're the vocalist even.
That's all very true. I just wanted to get honest feedback, me singing and me playing guitar, or me being a singer-songwriter. As you said in chapter 1, when Guy said, oh, my mate Finn, you remember him? He's that douchebag with the trendy haircut you met at that gig that time. He's a singer-songwriter now, and you were kind of incredulous about it. And to be honest, I think Ninja would have been exactly the same. So I didn't tell the guys at Ninja Tune that I was singing, and I'd already delivered a few bits and pieces from singers that I was working with, because I kind of thought my follow-up album to my trip-hop days would be like a hybrid of songs with guest singers and instrumentals, kind of like a 07 album or a Groove Armada record or something like that. Which luckily it didn't turn out that way, because Skev and Sumit management both said you've got to be one or the other and you can't be the other, so sing all the songs. But at this point, I had guest vocals from a young Amy Winehouse, I had guest vocals from Tina Grace, I was working with a few vocalists over my beats. And so, yeah, I was recording demos as a vocalist too for them, but when I played them to Ninja Tune, I definitely didn't want them to know it was me, because then I wouldn't get, a true feedback of, this is dreadful. We don't want to release this. If they'd have said that, I would have been like, okay, good. I'm glad I didn't say it was me, because they would have said, yeah, it's good, but, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, I kind of get it, but, I wanted them to be brutal and ruthless. So I told them it wasn't me. I told them it was a trendy, hot American guy that I'd found, and the guitarist was some trendy, cool American dude that I'd found. And it was only when they were listening to demos and going, okay, so we need to do a showcase. We need to, do a gig, maybe get some radio support. Are these guys, how are we going to fly them over? Are they available for gigs and tours? And it was only then that we had to kind of say, well, yeah, but it's actually all me, and I'm free, and I'm already signed. At which point they were incredulous, like your good self, Mr. T, but also kind of, I guess, a little bit happy, because everybody wanted a Jose Gonzalez at this point, because he was signed to a dance label, Peace Frog, and he'd just made, a ton of cash with a bunch of syncs and TV ads, and inspired a whole generation of singer-songwriters, me included, And I think Ninja were like, oh, thank God for that. We don't actually have to go and find one. And grapple with the whole, can Ninja Tune release a singer-songwriter? It's a hell of a left field turn from, 3-deck mixing and, DJ Olympics and things like that. And maybe it lacks, that choice would look a bit commercial. It'd look a bit bandwagon-y. They were definitely very concerned about that. But if one of your existing artists decides to do that, well, then our hands are tied. I mean, he's already a Ninja Tune artist, so what can we do but support his vision? If you like it, it was our decision. If you don't, it was a terrible decision by the artist, and we apologize. So that was kind of awesome, because then we were all in it together. Like Ninja Tune were like, dude, this is bonkers. You doing this? Okay, great. Okay, let's do that now. And none of us knew what we were doing. That's why when we did our early gigs, there was no sound guy, because not even Ninja or us or anyone thought, oh, you need to bring a sound guy. Because when you're a DJ, you do it yourself. You know, Ninja Tune had experience with their big bands like Cold Cut and people like Herbalizer and stuff, but they didn't think that I was one of those players yet. So yeah, the early demos, when we were making early demos for Ninja and I was delivering them, I don't think they were prepared for how live and how real they were. But when we would go into my Brighton loft and record some stuff and jam, I realized real quickly as a producer, okay, this is going to sound like this. I can try and dress it up and do extra stuff. But every time I do extra stuff, it just doesn't sound real. But when it's just Timmy plays his drums and Guy plays his bass and I play my guitar and sing, then it like sounds like a thing. When I try and add stuff and trendy stuff and try and make it sound like something else, it just doesn't work. So us three playing together just kind of forced us into this box, this folktronica box, which was all the rage at the time, if I remember rightly. And
Sure.
we were really trying, or I was really trying to make, well, like Guy said in the previous chapter, we were kind of doing it backwards. I was making and producing a record, and then we were going to work out how we did it afterwards. So that was our process for a while, wasn't it, basically? Like, you know, track by track.
I mean, I think the arrangements ended up dictating what came out the other end. So, you know, rather than you thinking, how can I combine this with electronics and make it affect it and all of that, it was actually the kind of very, very raw material, like in your loft, playing like that Biscuits beat, for example.
Yeah.
I think I say in this chapter that was, for me, that was one of the first times we really nailed it. Like that, everything we wanted from this, it was a nice tight beat with guitar and bass played incredibly tightly.
Yeah.
But it's essentially drums, bass, guitar. That
Absolutely.
you can't get away from it. But it's so quiet. I think that was, for me, the kind of interesting point was everything we were doing was so quiet, like, to the point where we could play in your loft and not, you know, get yelled at by the neighbours all the time.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I did. I have got an ASBO because of those sessions.
But didn't that come later?
I don't.
No, the ASBO was pretty soon because we were doing You Gotta Choose pretty early, and you used to hit those drums pretty hard up there, Mr. T. No, let's not talk about the ASBO. Let's just gloss over that.
Let's just gloss over the ASBO. But yeah, because when we were working out how we were going to play together, obviously me and Guy, we knew, okay, the bass can be turned down and turned up and played this way and played that way, and we didn't need a bass rig at that point. We could just plug him right in and have a nice time. And my nylon guitar was very quiet and very polite. But then you bring in, you know, a drummer, and all of a sudden it's kind of like, well, that's louder than everything else.
Everything, yeah, sure.
How do we do this? And I think you dealt with that really, really well, like just having to constantly turn down all the volume buttons, which was like really went against all of your kind of natural instincts as a guy who's been drumming in lots of bands.
Yeah.
It's like you almost want me to kind of not even hit these drums. I mean,
Yeah,
you know.
it felt like that sometimes.
A lot of brushes and there's a lot of t-shirts draped over things, and then hoodies and dressing gowns, and your Sum 41 commemorative video shoot dressing gown was, you know, drafted into muffle instruments that craftsmen had spent ages making sure didn't sound muffled.
Yes, exactly.
We're getting muffled big time.
But that's what it is. It was deadening things, wasn't it?
Dead everything.
Yeah, it was.
And then it was when I discovered these guys.
The brushes.
Yeah,
the brushes of life.
the brushes of love. Yeah,
Pulling up my plastic brushes here. I mean, and that was like very much a means to an end. You know, how to kind of keep a kind of in time band without having to whack my hi-hat loudly, because that's deafening. I mean, anyone's hi-hat is deafening. So yeah, I remember it was all like a question of just getting smaller, to the point where I think we kind of, I remember at some point in 2005 we sort of started going to your loft more than we started going to Scream.
to actually rehearse.
Yeah,
because Scream just sounded so bad.
Yeah.
I just couldn't handle the demoralization of rehearsal room sound. And you know, in the loft we could control like my voice and your snare reverb and the level of bass, and we could really, like, you know, this was the thing, you know, Biscuits for Breakfast wasn't recorded in a fancy studio. It was recorded in a loft of a Edwardian terrace house. And that level of intimacy, I think, is absolutely on all the tracks. It's almost so polite. You want to kind of shake us and be like, dude, but we were just, our environment being free, mine, and, all that stuff really helped us to spend hours minimizing what we were doing. So it sounded like it fitted together.
Yeah, for sure.
Because in our rehearsals, it sounded like Finn is an absolutely green, never done this before guy who's a bit nervous, and the rhythm section we're in a rollicking indie band for 10 years, and it's like this is incongruous, man. It's just not going to work. But in the studio, we could play into the nice sounds and the nice vibes, and get these nice grooves.
You're totally right, man. And the incongruity was carried into what we were building as a live experience, I think, because we took what we knew as our studio sound, and it was immediately clear that the three of us playing on stage were not going to be able to recreate that certainly not in the near future. So we adapted, and our live performances, a lot of tracks sound quite different. We put different emphases and different there's dynamics, and we had to learn to put those dynamics in. When we play some of our stuff that was more flatline, it sounds absolutely great for 6 minutes on a recording, but live we would discover early on that some things that's not going to carry across how you hope. And so we experienced the same as everybody does, which was that one gig teaches you more than those early gigs. Especially one gig is worth 20 rehearsals. So
yeah, no doubt.
And in our case, our first gig we should probably skip on to, which was the ICA.
So did we do this ICA gig before the record came out?
Yes.
You did one without me. I mean, yeah.
Well, we did two ICA gigs, one without Guy, but one the real kind of trio first gig. That was in the autumn of 2005. So
right.
still a good 6 months off from the record coming out. And that was, as you say in the book, it was a kind of baptism of fire, because we went from being a band in a Scream rehearsal room to supporting Cold Cut live on XFM, the ICA main room, all of which are pretty hardcore things.
Absolutely. And Cold Cut, they not only did they own Ninja Tune, but at this point they were easily the biggest artist on Ninja Tune, and XFM was still a thing back then. It was very cool and very credible, and Nick Luscombe, I think, got us that gig, or something like that.
Yeah,
and
Flow Motion. It was live on his show.
Oh my god!
It was live on air. I mean, it was just so crazy that we did that.
I don't think you told me that. I don't think I've ever heard that we were live on XFM. I reckon you guys must have agreed. Don't tell Guy.
We probably did actually. That was maybe the beginning of the let's not tell Guy. Let's not give Guy the details on this one, just so that he just concentrates on what he's doing.
Exactly.
I remember nothing from. All I remember is asking Susie Green if we could borrow Cold Cut's sound guy, Steve Hodge, and how naive is that question now? I totally appreciate that, and she just looking at me with this kind of concrete wall of no, and just said no, and we were like, okay, and. The gig I don't remember at all. I remember us surviving it. That's all I remember.
I remember a couple of things from it. I remember it being, in those days, it was sort of, I don't know why you did this quite, but you used to do this thing where you'd turn to us at the beginning of a song and say, so should we do it mellow, chilled, or like,
okay.
Like we were deciding how to play it there and then. And it was kind of cool in a way, because it meant that, we were still very live. Like it was the beginning of this whole thing of things not being quite set in stone when we play live, But I suppose at that point, it was like, well, we play it like we play it in the rehearsal room, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, but I know what Finn means. I know what you mean, because the early Motel Mosaic recording, there's exactly that. But the thing is that what Finn was alluding to was that exactly what we just said. That the only other thing we had in our armory, all we had on stage was an acoustic bass, 4 strings on it, no effects pedals, nothing else. All I can do is change how hard I'm hitting it. Finn only had the nylon string guitar. I think he might have had the Martin, but he hardly touched it. It was Yeah, it was just the nylon string, and Mr. T had literally the smallest drum kit in the world, so there wasn't much we could do. So what Finn meant by that was, shall we do Pretty Little Thing up tempo here? Does this crowd need a bit of waking up, or should we? Or maybe we could do it really, lackadaisical, which I know is not the rules. I know that's not what bands discussed live on stage. I know that's not the rule, but I know what he was alluding to. It does make sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe just the nerves of trying to. I do kind of remember now you mention it, I do remember doing that a little bit in the early days, but I think maybe that was just me reminding myself, okay, it's us three.
Yeah.
This is us, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's them over there. I don't really want to even acknowledge there is a them at this point. I just want it to just be us. So
Approach this how we want.
just look at me and remind me that it's not just me walking into a hail of bullets here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because I haven't remembered that in years.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used to do that. That's true.
It's funny. There was several things that we used to do like that carried on. One of them was the whole giving each other a hug at the end of the gig.
Oh, that's nice.
Because not many bands actually do that, but we've always.
Well, we don't do it because they hate each other after 15 years on the road, which is why we all have separate plane
buses
seats when we travel.
But it was very much like a kind of wow, we got through it,
Yeah, that's the feeling I remember.
and then that was the tradition. Like wow, we got through it, and now we got through another one.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, it was lovely because we did get through it. I don't know if they clapped or not. They probably did. But afterwards, people said all those things that they say after gigs. Oh, it was really good to me. Oh, yeah, it sounded great. Oh, yeah, the front of house sound was amazing, And it doesn't matter if they were lies. It was just really nice just to be like, okay, one down. That first
sure.
time is done. Now it's all uphill from here, but that's all good. At least the first step is taken.
Yeah, but the thing is when especially in the early days that we sort of skipped over a bit with FINK because we did just go straight into pretty good touring, which maybe is the next conversation. But it's when you are playing and all the audience are just your family and friends, you can't take their compliments seriously when they're telling you sound great, obviously. So, but then we went out and there's one show, isn't there, where you just you just feel it. It's different. You know when everyone says that was brilliant, you guys were brilliant. You know in your stomach and in your heart, you're like, yeah, we were. You know it. And in our case, I think that was Brighton.
I don't know. For me, it was Motel Mosaic, that gig in Rotterdam. We were just doing these warm-up gigs at this point. I mean, we'll go back to the old Queen's Head in a minute, but we were just doing we were just getting jammed onto bills as favours and, was supporting people as favours. And when we did Motel Mosaic, we were slammed on the bill at the last minute as the last band on the Sunday or something really like, we're just doing you a favour here. Just play your 30 minutes and then bugger off, and then we can all go home. And we did our 30 minutes on camera, on TV, and the sound guys and the techie guys and the TV crew and all of those guys said afterwards, "Oh man, you guys were great. I can't believe I've never heard of you. Who are you? Wow,
That's true,
that was
man.
really cool.
That was
I
good.
love this track. I love that track." And I thought they don't need to say that at all. And
Yeah.
that means we must have been all right to say that,
Yeah.
It was a real moment for me, that Motel Mosaic show.
I think it's something about our kind of relationship with the Netherlands in the early days as well, because they tend to judge things on its merit. Whereas in Britain, there's a million and one concerns, like, is it trendy? Which magazine's talking about it? Which label are they signed to? All of those things. But I always felt like in the Netherlands, if you're good, they'll be into it. They'll tell you, So there's a kind of layer of stuff that is stripped away in a way. That's always what I felt from those. Because the first, I think, like gigs 2 and 3 ever were in the Netherlands, weren't they? Paradiso,
Right.
supporting Yonder Boy, and the Motel Mosaic gig.
Yeah.
So, and they're really quite early. I mean, maybe 3 and 4, but still, that's pretty damn early. I mean, most bands have racked up about 10 bar-fied performances, and before they do that.
Well, I guess that was part of the deal that I pitched to you guys
Very
in
true,
the really
yeah.
early days of FINK, which was that Ninja Tune, this record will come out everywhere at the same time. So we will get released in Holland and Belgium and Spain and Portugal and Russia and Australia. It will be everywhere. It's not just it's in the UK and hopefully we'll get a gig in France. It will be there. And I knew that from my DJ days. You know, their global network was real.
Yes.
But let's rewind a little bit and go back to the old Queen's Head gig, which was quite an important gig for us. What's that, gig 3 or gig 2?
Well, in terms of the trio, it's gig 2.
Gig 2. So,
Yeah. So was that the release gig of the album?
it might have been. All I know is that Sumit, this might be wrong, he might correct us, but Sumit was like, in order to get this 07 are looking for a support band that aren't a pain in the arse, are basically free, and, you know, won't ask too many questions. So we're going to do like an acoustic gig and invite them down.
That's exactly what it
see
was.
if they like you enough to put you on the tour. And it's a massive deal. And if you get it, all your dreams come true. And if you don't get it, go back to Brighton and cry into your pillow. And so we arranged to play upstairs at the old Queen's Head to do like an unannounced showcase. Maybe it was an album release showcase.
It was announced in Metro as such, wasn't it? I think
It was announced in Metro, and Metro said Ninja Tune, free gig.
Yeah.
And with those two words, it was
Absolutely
full of 300
ridiculous.
trendies that were probably expecting Amon Tobin to play some ambient sort of, you know, breakbeat. But it was essentially acoustic, wasn't it? There wasn't, I don't even remember there being a PA. But
I think there was something for you to sing through.
There was a small PA.
I was definitely not mic'd up. And Guy, if I remember rightly, you were expecting there to be some sort of bass amp there.
That's right.
And that's when we got there and we were setting up and you couldn't see a bass amp, and Sumit, our manager, pointed at some random guitar amp and went, "Just use that, dude."
That's right.
You were
That's
like-
right.
fair enough, man. It's, you know, it's a solution-driven option, and it's an option, you
Solution-driven
know.
option. But yeah, we were very quiet for the room full of people, and also we were very low because there was no stage.
I mean, we couldn't even. I remember just it was much more terrifying than ICA because A, no stage, so no separation, and B, we couldn't even get in ourselves. It was so packed that just for us to get up the stairs to get to our playing area was almost kind of like, how are we even going to get into this place? And I do remember we played to 100 or so people that, from memory, they just didn't care. They were just talking. It was just a bar gig. They were talking away and drinking their pints. And I remember seeing Sam and Henry sort of sat over on a couch in like this royal box position, and just thinking, you guys are just gonna be like, well, no one's listening, so no.
Funny, isn't it?
And we did okay. I'm sure we did all right.
Yeah.
But when we found out that we got the 07 support tour when we were at Moto Mosaic, I think.
Yeah,
wasn't
we
it,
did.
didn't
We were in the hotel, I think, in the Rotterdam hotel.
Maybe Sumit, you know, with his trade on potential mantra, maybe he sort of had a word and just sort of said, guys, they're going to be the new, you know, he's the new Neil Young. You should put him on your tour. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
I think there might have been some hard selling going on behind the scenes for us to get that gig. But we got a support tour, which means we're going to do a UK tour. We're going to do an Academy tour with 07. And when the album came out, it was like a #1 album. I mean, it was a big record.
They were
and
really big at that point.
it was a thing. The Garden was a thing. So
Yeah.
it was that was a learning curve.
Yeah.
The likes of which few bands actually get to have, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Really? Just
And the other thing about it was that, I mean, we've done UK tours where you have Shepherd's Bush Empire or so in London, but then you go to the towns and it's 500. But 07 were Shepherd's Bush Empire size all over the UK. So you had
Everywhere.
Southampton Guildhall, which was enormous. It was so enormous.
Giant.
They were playing five-a-side football in the
Like,
the
literally.
audience area, the crew, when we arrived.
I mean, and their band was enormous. I mean, they had like a amazing band, but they had like, you know, a 7 or 8 piece band. They had Sia as a guest vocalist. Well, she was the vocalist at the time. You had Jose Gonzalez as a guest musician who had recorded a track for them and wasn't Jose Gonzalez at the time, but now he very much was Jose Gonzalez. So he'd walk on and the crowd would go nuts, and it was just kind of like, it was such a massive experience. And
It was, yeah.
I learned so much on that tour from Sam and Henry, from the crew that I could see who does what. Okay, the monitor guy's that guy, the front of house is like that, the techies are like this.
Yeah.
The support band are like here in the pecking order, you know. I mean, wow, it was just so amazing, you know, it really was. Incredible.
It was. And I mean, you know, we really did sharpen our show. I mean, I think I said in the book, there's a sort of before 07 tour FINK and a post 07 tour FINK, completely different animals.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely.
You know, we were so much looser after that tour?
It was when we did Leeds. For me, it was the gig at Leeds Uni because I went to Leeds. So, well, two things about that Leeds Uni gig that were great because not all the 07 gigs were good. We did bomb a couple of times pretty hard.
Sure.
But was because Guy never went to university. I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing that. So when we got to one of these university campuses, it was all like a sunny day. There were literally bunnies hopping on the fields as students played frisbee and smoked weed in public. And Guy was just kind of like, I remember Guy's face just being like, "Oh right, okay, now I get university. This looks great." But the Leeds University gig was like in a proper student union type venue. It wasn't like Shepherd's Bush or Birmingham Academy. It was like a proper student venue. And I just remember we got a bit raucous. I think maybe we were exhausted and we got nothing to lose kind of crept in.
Yeah.
And Sorry I'm Late, the ending to Sorry I'm Late was getting bigger and bigger and bigger because we just wanted them to shut up and listen for a second. And
Absolutely.
And man, that Leeds gig, I came off stage thinking we just did that. We just did good there. We did really good there. We're a band now. I love that.
And we'd shaved songs off the set as well. It was a lean kind of 25 minutes, as opposed to us trying to cram more songs into the space of time.
Yeah.
So we knew what we were doing. We were sort of a bit cocky, I think.
Well, cocky, or I don't know about cocky because I definitely wasn't. I definitely didn't feel cocky at that point, but I definitely felt like, okay, we've done like 5 gigs in this format. We know what we're walking into here. A quick line check and then a gig in front of 1,000 talking 07 fans. We know what this is, so fine, this is what we're doing and we're going to do it. And I think that Leeds Uni gig was where I came off stage being like, okay, we did that. We got this.
And then we had our summer of festivals, because obviously if you want to get practice going out as a 3-piece, just bowling onto the stage, plugging in and going, that's what you get at festivals.
Yeah, and festivals is a total lottery. By this point, the record was out, so
yeah,
there was some momentum. We'd had some good press, and we'd had some people saying nice things, and everybody was definitely kind of like, Ninja Tune have released a singer-songwriter. What? Kind of that was in our favor too. Yeah, I think festivals is how you gain fan base. It's a free gift. They're all waiting to see Foo Fighters, and even if 50 people in every city go, "Oh, FINK was pretty good," you can go back and play a toilet venue and sell 70 tickets, and you've begun building the building blocks. But those festivals, festivals will never stop being a challenge. Even now with us, where we're not bottom of the bill anymore, we're kind of in the middle somewhere. You still don't know what you're going to get. It could be the best gig of your life. It could be the worst half an hour you've ever played. Even now, you just never know. It's almost like a baptism of fire, which you just never stop being baptized.
Yeah. And you can see the bigger bands trying so hard to kind of offset that, like to try and think, okay, this could go wrong, that could go wrong, so we'll put this in place, that in place. And they've put so many things in place to try and, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it mitigate?
Mitigate those circumstances. I saw one of those recently as a really quick aside. I saw Mumford & Sons headline Ziggett when we played Ziggett last.
Yeah.
And they had everything, pyrotechnics, drum kit getting destroyed and everything. And at one point, the pyro is just about to be lit. And I saw this guitar tech run onto the stage with a big black cloth. And he quickly threw it over Mumford's guitar boat because someone had forgotten to do it. And when the pyro kicks off, all the pyro just lands on this guitar boat. And if he hadn't remembered that, we're talking 50 grand's worth of guitars up in smoke at that point. But yeah, it was festivals are mitigating circumstances. And Guy said something to me in the really early days, which has never left me, which is like the more boxes you put on the stage, the more there is to go wrong. So I think with FINK, especially when we were doing our early festival tours, it was literally like, if you've got more than a tuning pedal on that stage, be prepared for some shenanigans, So you bring your own lead, you bring your own pedal, and you just cross your fingers. Hopefully the string's not going to break. Hopefully it's not going to rain. Yeah. And we cut our teeth not being the headline band.
Sure. It's in many ways it's better to not be the headline band on a festival stage, isn't it?
Oh yeah, on a festival for sure. But even on our early support tours,
right? Yeah.
We're playing to a bunch of people that don't care. They're actually waiting to see Yonder Boy or Lou Rhodes or whoever, all these other bands we supported. So actually, they're probably going to talk all the way through, and don't get upset about it. Just try and, as my father said to me, play to the people who are listening, not the people who aren't. And it takes a while to get into that mind frame because you're like, why aren't you listening to me? But this is why we were really shy of playing the ballads, because we'd go soft and everyone would just wander off. It was only, you know what I mean? It was just the Biscuits tour, early Biscuits tours, we were just kind of like, every gig was so different and so unique and new. And I mean, maybe not for you guys, but for me, it was just like, wow, every gig is so unique.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, it was new for us too, as well. Because this was a totally different type of music for us as well to play. I guess we weren't used to being so loud, so quiet. We were used to being loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also it was different for us as well to be, as you say, third gig was supporting Yonder Boy in a sold-out Paradiso. We hadn't been on stage in a sold-out Paradiso, either of us. It doesn't matter how many gigs you've done, you're not ready for that. That's a different vibe to us, a mostly full Red Eye and King's Cross area,
I mean, that was the thing with us, I think, because none of us had done this before at this point. I had never played live. You'd never, been released on a big indie or whatever. We'd done that trade-off. But when we got to playing big venues and, festivals and big things like that, we were in a position where actually none of us in this trio has done this before. We were all of a sudden kind of equal partners in this adventure.
Yeah, definitely. And the example we gave in the book as to sort of the climax of this whole sort of early festival experience was the Lowlands, the first time we played Lowlands.
Oh, wow, what an experience that was.
And we definitely, all three of us had never done something like that before. I remember
brilliant.
This techie, taking me aside and saying, have you ever played Lowlands before? And I said, no. And he said, it's special. You'll understand, people react in a special way here.
I remember, I think you say in the book that you didn't believe they were being genuine. It was, the reaction was so amazing that you were like, there must be a joke we're not getting here.
Tim was really freaked out. Don't you remember after the gig? Tim was literally like, he literally couldn't believe that they were serious.
I know. It was insane. I mean, I just thought, okay, we're playing a good gig, but this is beyond.
I think it was one of the first times we played a FINK gig. I know it's a festival show, but it's a FINK gig in a closed tent, and they're sat down and they're quiet.
Yeah.
So they could hear what we were doing, and it was like there was about maybe 1,000 people in the tent. It was a little portend of what it could be like in the future. People actually listening and actually wanting to hear you was quite a new experience for us, I think.
Yeah.
So with Lowlands under our belt and an album out, what was left was to, tackle the tricky question of what's next, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tricky second album, which I think we'll cover in the next podcast, won't we?
Yes,
Chapter 3.
Absolutely. I mean, Guy did touch upon the fact that it was, we were beginning to be aware that we needed more songs.
Yeah,
for sure.
No doubt.
Well, I mean, the whole of Biscuits is about 39 minutes, isn't it? So that was all the songs we had. There you go. So first problem, you got a headline, play for an hour. Okay, we're already 20 minutes short. Boom.
Yeah.
Had you begun actually writing them at this point, Finn, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We'd worked out a few covers, hadn't we? Like just to fill a bit of space, and
there was City Lights by Husky Rescue, and then there was I Don't Want to Know by John Martin.
Yeah, we were just kind of we were gently starting to write Distance and Time, or what would become Distance and Time, only because as a musician I was playing so much, doing so many gigs, doing so many hangs, and so much promo, that I was starting to grow into the role a little bit of like, I'm a guitarist, I'm a singer.
Yeah.
This is what I do 4 or 5 days a week. So, on my day off, this is also what I do.
Yeah.
And both me and Guy at this point had kind of made the leap out of, I had a part-time day job down in Brighton working for Catskills Records at the time, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, and that was becoming unmanageable pretty quickly. And Guy's situation was also becoming pretty unmanageable. I don't think we needed much persuasion to, can the day job and just go all in, But again, it was naive, but you have to commit. You have to jump in with both feet. You can't do a little halvesies because otherwise you don't give it what it needs.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. You can only juggle it for so long. You did it too, Mr. T, as well, I mean, I remember him phoning in sick to work with a bad back while being in an airport, hoping that in the background they weren't going to, announce last call for the flight to Hong Kong.
Oh, God, yeah. It was terrible. I mean, it was exhausting, that. And actually having to work sometimes on the road, like getting up and doing a few hours on your laptop, like when you're, a bit hungover, and you're just waiting to get the pickup to the next place.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I managed to sustain it for a little bit longer, but that's for
Absolutely,
the next chapter.
and you know that's the thing. I mean, we you know, me and Guy were fully in, which was great because it meant that Timmy, you didn't have to be at this point. Me and Guy were gonna, like, you know, the train was running and we were on it, and we were just gonna, and you know, don't worry, bro, you do what you have to do, and we're just gonna keep on it. But after Biscuits came out, the feeling I got in the immediate aftermath of that summer festival season and all the support gigs we did, and the occasional ropey headline show that we knocked out and stuff like that along the way. That one in Kilburn really springs. The Luminaire, I remember being a good one in London.
The Luminaire, yeah, that was very good.
So that kind of thing, and Paris and stuff. You know, the aftermath of all of this, I think, was like, okay, there definitely is going to be a second album. This definitely counts as a tick on the report card. It might not be an A+, but it's definitely a B-. So I think we're gonna. I think I definitely felt like, okay, FINK now is actually a thing, and as opposed to when Biscuits came out, where no one's expecting anything or even waiting for it. With the second one, it's like, okay, guys, we think we need to put this out, you know, next year, which means people are going to judge it, want to listen to it, you know, like it, love it, hate it, whatever. Which meant that we were actually a thing now.
A thing, yeah.
It was official. We were a thing.
I remember maybe the first song I heard from what became the next record was, I think, So Many Roads, where because we played that. I remember distinctly playing that at the end of the Biscuits festival period, with that festival we did in Portugal, where there was a huge power cut.
God, I don't remember
that.
That festival in Portugal was a power cut. When was that?
It was a power cut it was a sort of art centre-y festival indoors.
Oh God, I do remember
there was a power cut. We had to eat dinner by candlelight.
It was when Finn had a sneezing fit.
I had a sneezing fit. You're right. It was I do remember that now. Bloody hell.
Where do you remember the randomest shit?
And we played So Many Roads, and you'd played it to us. It was literally like kind of, we'd heard it in the dressing room maybe or something. And then you said, I'm going to play it live if you want to jump on.
Oh, was that my Back to the Future moment? Hey guys, it's in G. Join in the chorus.
Watch me for the changes.
Watch me for the changes.
Yes, exactly. That was right.
That's nice. I was writing stuff because I was feeling stuff. I know that sounds really obvious, but you know, yeah, I was on the road so much that I was missing real life. Now looking back, I can see that in a way I was tentatively, in a way, saying goodbye to that life. But you know,
yeah.
It was like So Many Roads. You know, yeah, man, I'm a road warrior. Do you know what I mean? White lines on the highway. Yeah, Joni, I know what you mean. But at the same time, it was like, I'm loving this. This isn't tragic at all. I'm totally okay with this. But,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I had material to go because Biscuits was very much about my life before Biscuits, but Distance and Time was turning into my life now. And I wanted to write about it, you know?
Sure.
But so when we finished those festival seasons, I mean, it was a thing. We were a band now, for real.
Amazing. It was brilliant.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Exciting times.
I love it. So now, where are we now? 2006, summer
now
2006.
Autumn 2006. So we're just about to embark on the Distance and Time era, which is chapter 3.
Oh gosh, how exciting. Well, I mean, thanks for joining us on chapter 2. I mean, what a pleasure that was. Memory lane.
I know, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? Brilliant.
Sitting at the table where it all began for us.